Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Terminator lab. This is the video number 19. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been working on migrating our file server using a tool called Server Migration Tool. And we have discussed in the previous video that there is a lot of migration tools that can be used to migrate file server. One of them is the server migration tool and storage migration tool and robocopy, and we can use third-party tools, or we can use a normal backup and restore process. All of these methods was listed by the Google Bard AI and Claude 2 AI. So this was the methods that we can use to migrate file server. In the previous video, I have discussed a script that we will use to migrate the file server with the tool called server migration tool. So we'll use the server migration tool to migrate the file server, plus using a script. This script will do a couple of things. It will add uh, file server quota, it will add file screening rules, it will add the file server resource manager to the new file server. A lot of things we have discussed in the previous video. Theoretically, we have discussed the script and discussed the different methods for file server migration, and we have have a little bit, or we have talked a little bit about server migration tool and focus on it. So today we will see practically how we can migrate our file server using the server manager tool. So let's begin, but before that I need to just refresh your mind. This is our old file server. We have Windows Server 2012 R2 installed on it. This is our file server, and this is our new file server which has Windows Server 2022 data center installed on it. We need to migrate it to this server. So let's see how this can be done practically. Let's begin. Here we have stopped the last time at minute 25:48. So let's continue and see how we can migrate our file server. We will open the script. So here I think I am getting the script of the file server migration. It's called file server migration 2. This is the script that we will use. And the file server migration script, this is for the robocopy. So we have two scripts, one for the file server migration two, this is for using the server migration tool, and the other for the robocopy. So one script for the robocopy and the other for the server migration tool. Okay, so now we will open the script and begin applying it. So the first thing we need to do is to create two folders with the same names as on the old file server. We have two folders on the old file server. One is called DataCube and the other is called BioChips. These two folders, one folder contain the department folders, and these department folders are shared, and the other folder, which is called BioChips, contains the Active Directory home folder folders for the users. Okay, so let's open a PowerShell. We need to open a PowerShell as administrator, because through it we will open the server migration tool. Okay, we will open it through the PowerShell. Okay, and we will use it to transfer data from the old file server to the new file server. Okay, now we have the first two lines to create the two folders. So we have access. It will take a little bit of time, and then it will give us a notification that these two folders are created, and these are on the old file server. So now we have C successfully created. If you go to the D partition, we will see that we will have two folders created. Okay, and now we will open this couple of commands. These commands will let us install the Windows Server migration feature. So we open a PowerShell command to install the server migration tool. So first we have created the two folders, then we need to install the server migration tool, and this is the name of the PC. So we will save and then we will install the server migration tool. Okay, it's called migration. Okay, so we will open the PowerShell and then paste. This will install the server migration tool on this server. Okay, and then press enter. It will take some time. Okay, it will take collecting data. Okay, 20%, 24% installation. This will take some time. I think we need to pause the video. Anyway, we can go there. Okay, and complete 61%. Okay, we can also run it a little bit quickly. 92%. And then we can pause the video. So now the Windows Server migration tools are successfully installed. Then we need to export this tool and run it from the old file server. Okay, so this should be done, and the export will be done using a script or a certain script or a certain PowerShell command. Okay, so here what I am doing, here I am creating a folder that through it or in it I will export the Windows Server migration tool. Here I'm just deleting the old folder, so because this was done before, so what I will do, I will create a folder, okay, and this folder, in it we will export the Windows Server migration tool. We will do this, okay, using the PowerShell. So we will create the folder that in it we will export the server migration tool using a PowerShell command. Okay, so here what we will do, we will tell him to uh, just delete this one, and then tell him to create this folder in the D partition. This folder we will export the Windows Server migration tool to it, and this should run on Windows 12 R2 64-bit system. Okay, so now this folder is created. Now we need to run another PowerShell command to export the Windows Server migration tool to it. Okay, so now let's go now and run the command. First of all, we need to go to the folder that contains the Windows Server migration tool, okay, and run the command from within it. Okay, so it is in Windows C Windows 32-bit or C Windows 32 or C Windows System 32, and then inside the folder that contains the Windows Server migration tool, we will run the command to export it. Okay, let me pause this here quickly. So what we will do again, so this is the location of the server migration tool, and here this is the smig deploy, this is the exe file that we need to run to export the Windows Server migration tool. So through the PowerShell we need to go to this directory and then run the smig deploy exe file to export this tool and this tool should be compatible with the Windows Server 2012 R2. We will see that in a moment. So I'm copying the destination and tell him cd and then paste. Now we are inside the Windows Server Migration Tool. Then we should run a certain command. This is the command that we will use to export this tool, and we should be specific. This is the operating system that should this tool work with, and AMD it should be 64-bit. And now I am providing him with the folder that he should export this tool to. Okay, so we will run this command. Okay, copy and then paste and press enter. This will take a little bit of time, and then this folder should be copied to the Windows or the old file server, which has Windows Server 2012 R2 installed on it. Okay, here we can see this is WS 12 R2 and AMD 64-bit. So this will take a little bit of time again. Okay, like this. Okay, I think I will pause the video. So now this tool is already exported. We will copy it and put it on the old file server. Here you go. This is the D partition. We will copy it and we will put it on the D partition on the old file server. This will be done from the run command. So I'll tell him run and then type the server and then the C partition and $sign. This is how I can access the C partition of the remote old file server. Okay, now here is the C of the old file server, and then we will paste it in the C partition, and then we will go there and run the utility from it. So we will input and then Control Alt Delete and then run the utility. You should log in with a username that have privileges, okay, or have enough privileges to run the server migration tool, and it should have full privileges or have enough privileges to run this tool. Okay, and the domain admin has already full privileges. Okay, so now what we will do here, we will run this line. This line will add the server migration commands to the PowerShell session. Okay, so we can use the server migration tool from within the PowerShell. We have already installed the module, but to use the commands associated with the module, we need to import it. Okay, so this what this line do to import the PowerShell commands for the server migration tool. Now this is the old file server. We will open and run the server migration tool from here. So we have two PowerShell sessions. One is running on the old file server and the other is running on the new file server. And these two PowerShell sessions are for or will be used by the server migration tool. Okay, so what you do now, here we are preparing this server to receive data. So we receive data, and then after doing this command, he will ask us to provide a password. This password will be a secret key shared between the two file servers. Okay, so now this server is in the receiving state, so he's waiting now for the data to be transmitted. So now we need to go to the old file server and run the server migration tool, which is on the C partition. So we'll wait a couple of seconds. So you need to go to the C Okay, let me pass this real quickly. So here, this is the folder. Okay, it's in the C SMIG deploy W12R2 AMD64, but this is the folder that contains the server migration tool. Okay, now tell him dir just to list all of the files in the folder. We need to run the smig deploy.exe. Okay, so we'll type smig deploy.exe, and then after that we will prepare this server to send the data. And by the way, the sending and receiving of data will be encrypted. Okay, so this is the smig deploy tool. Once you open it, or once you run this exe file, it will let you use the utility. So now here is the PowerShell window that is related to the server migration tool. Okay, so now we need to go and tell him to send on the old file server, to send the data cube, old data cube folder, and overwrite it with the new data cube folder on this server. Okay, so let's wait for a moment. We will paste, okay, and then press enter. So he's copying the old data queue folder to the new data queue folder on the new file server, and then he asked for the password, which is the secret key shared between the two file servers. And now after pressing enter, it will begin sending the data. By the way, this will take a hell of time if the data is a lot, or if you have huge data, because before sending the data he will encrypt the data. So make sure that you have enough hardware for doing this process. Okay, so you need to have the server don't have any activity on the server, because the migration process will take some time, and the encryption will take a little bit of processing, or processor process. Okay, or processing, or that it will take some processing activity from the processor. Okay, on both servers. Okay, so now he's collecting the data and begin sending the data. We will see after that that the folder will be migrated with the file share permissions and the NTFS permissions. Okay, so let's wait. He is encrypting and sending the data. So now all of the data is sent. So we can see all of the folders are sent. Okay, there is a lot of data sent, and these are sent with their permissions, and they will be shared. So they will be shared, and the permissions will be attainable, or it will be the same as on the old file server. We will check that by ourselves, by the way. So we will wait. Now we will repeat the process, but for the Active Directory folder. So this is the folder for the department shares, and this is the folder for the Active Directory home folders. So now we are putting it the server again, or the new file server in the receiving state, and then we'll go and tell him to on the old file server to send the data. Okay, by the way, what we mean by recursive means here that the folder and the subfolders will be copied. Okay, so recursive here means it will be copied the main folder and subfolders if there is, or if there is or if there is any subfolders. Okay, so now you need to provide the password and then press enter. Then we will start the data migration process. As I told you before, this will take a little bit of the hardware from your server. Encrypting and sending data. Now it is sending the Active Directory folders, and this is done successfully. We'll go there and see if they are transferred successfully or not. Okay, and we will see the permissions, the file share permissions and the NTFS permissions. Okay, so now our migration process is completed. Okay, we need to go and see. If we open the D and then data cube and BioChips, here we can see this is our all the Active Directory home folders, and this is data cube. These are all the department shares or department folders. If you go to properties, any one of them, okay, we will see a surprise, okay, that the folder is shared and its NTFS and its sharing permissions are with it, so we can see it is shared already. Okay, and we go to the security, we can see also the NTFS permissions. Okay, so this is very good. We have transferred the file shares permissions and the NTFS permissions. Okay, so now we need to import the group policy that will point to the new file server and the new network map drives. Okay, this should be done because these shares are or these network map drives are on the old file server. We need to do this, okay, or to point to the new file server. Before that, we will run another PowerShell script to point or to select all of the Active Directory user properties in the Active Directory and change the location of the Active Directory home folder from the old file server to the new file server. We have discussed this before in the previous video. Okay, so now we will run this command. Here you can see it will change the name of the server. If we go further, here I'm telling him to change the location of the Active Directory home folder from this server to this server. We need to change it in all of the Active Directory user properties, especially in the profile tab, okay, in the section of the home folder. Okay, change the server name. Okay, we will check that also in a moment. So now we will run the first two lines will install the Active Directory module. Okay, so these two lines specifically, it's what it will do. It will install the Active Directory PowerShell module commands. Okay, so we can work with the Active Directory because this server, it is not a domain controller, so we need to import the Active Directory PowerShell commands in this session. Okay, on this server specifically. Okay, so we will open the console on the old file server. We will see something here. We need to check. What I am doing here, I'm opening the Active Directory to let you all see that the Active Directory user properties concerning the Active Directory home folder will be changed. Okay, with the new, or it will be changed with the new file server name. So we will wait for a moment and see. And then the remaining lines will change the name of the server, as I've said before. So now if you open any user in the Active Directory, let me show you all. So for example, open any user. Okay. For example, this user. If you open the profile tab, we will see here that this is the old file server. So this Active Directory home folder, it is on the old file server. The script will change this name to reflect the new file server name. Okay, so this will be changed after we run the script. Okay, that we are currently working with. Okay, so let's wait and see. So we need to pause the video, okay, because still he's importing the Active Directory module. It will take some time. And then it is successfully installed. Then the rest of the lines will, as I said before, change the name of the file server in the Active Directory user properties. Okay, so let's apply the selected lines, and then we will return back to the Active Directories to see if the name of the file server is changed or not. Okay, so here we can see it will give us a notification that migrated home directory for user. So this is a notification that the migrated or the home folder is already migrated, okay, for all of the users. So we can see successful migration. If we go there and see, we will see that it was already migrated. But before that, we need to make a refresh. And by the way, this script, it is generated by the AI, okay? Google I think this is ChatGPT. Okay, so now if we open the folder or of the user, we can see what happened here. We can see that the server now is changed so that it is pointing now to the new home folder on the new file server. Okay, this is a good script. The last thing we need to do is to modify the group policy to point to the new department shares on the new file server. Okay, so we need to do this. So as you can see here, this is still this is my Active Directory home folder. It's still pointing to the old file server, but after a refresh or a restart, it will be changed. Don't worry. Okay, so now we need to import the group policy that in it is pointing to the new file server. Okay, so this will let me access the new department share on the new file server. Okay, so here what is the problem here? That there is a problem that the location of the group policy, it is not correct. Okay, there is a problem with this or no, sorry, here the problem here that we didn't import the group policy PowerShell commands to this session, because this is not also an Active Directory, or this is not a domain controller, so you need to import the group policy PowerShell commands. So this is why this line didn't work. Okay, so we will do this, or I can run this line from the additional domain controller, which is at the same time it is the file server. So we will run it from there. So here I'm copying the folder, I'm putting it on the old file server, which is at the same time it is the additional domain controller. I will run this command from the additional domain controller and the old file server. We will wait for a moment, don't worry. And then we will go and run it from there. Okay, and don't need, we can go a remote PowerShell session to the old file server and additional domain controller and run this from it. Okay, so now we are on the old file server. We will run this command to import the new mapping group policy. We will run it. Now after that, when I log in with my user on this server, I can see the department or the new department shares on the new file server and my new Active Directory folder. We will make a restart and see, don't worry, we will see the result, but after a restart. So it will take a little bit of time. We can pause this real quickly. So here, what we can see that it is already imported. We will wait for a couple of seconds. Now the group policy is imported. Now we need to uninstall the file server resource manager from the old file server. Okay, so we are preparing to uninstall the file server feature from the old file server. And then after that we need to restart the server. So it will take some time. So now we have installed, we need to restart the server, so we need to restart this server, okay, to complete the uninstallation process. By the way, you cannot use this command when there is a user that is logged into the server. Okay, this will not work. The restart or the remote restart should work if there is no user logged in on the server. Okay, so we will restart it manually to complete the removal process of the file server resource manager from the old file server. Now we can exit the PS session and remove the PS session. Okay, no, this should not be done because we are still on the old file server. Okay, this should not be done, so we need to pause the video. We need to access. Okay, so this is not correct. We need to exit the PS session because we are still on the remote server, so we will exit PS session and then we will install the file server resource manager on our new file server. This will take a little bit of time. Okay, and then this is restarting the old file server, and now we have successfully installed the file server resource manager on the new file server. And this is, I am just testing to see if the file server resource manager commands is working on the new file server, because the upcoming lines will set the quota on the folders and the file screening rules. Okay, so I need to make sure that the file server resource manager PowerShell commands is working so to make sure that the upcoming lines will work. Okay, so this is a command that will give me the file server resource manager file groups, or the type of files that the file server can block. Okay, this is called FSRM, or file server resource manager file groups. Okay, it will take some time. Okay, we can pause this real quickly. So now we can see here that the command is successfully implemented, so that means that the file server resource manager is working perfectly on the new file server. Now we will apply the rest of the lines which is related to quota or quota or folder quota and blocking rules. Okay, block audio and video files on these two folders and the quota limit, okay, for the two folders. And this is will be locked, or if any breach to the limit of the quota or the rules of the files on the folders, it will be logged to the event viewer. Okay, so now we have everything now working. We need to test and see the new file server in action. First of all, I need to restart the server to see if I can access the new folders on the new file server, the department share and my Active Directory home folder. So we need to do this. Before that, we will open the file server management console to see the shared folders, to make sure that our folders are transferred and shared. Okay, so they are not only copied, they are copied and shared, and their file share permissions are transferred. So let's wait and see. First of all, this is the console. If you open the shares, we will see that all of the folders are shared. Okay, we can see here this is all of our department shares. They are all shared. Okay, this is a good sign. We need to now, after that, make sure. So we need to see the two shares, the Active Directory home folder and the department share. We need to see them if they are pointing to the new file server or not. So we will restart and take a look what will happen. So we'll restart and see. So this will take a little bit of time. So I think we can pause this real quickly, restart, and then here I'm logging into the new file server, sorry, to the old file server. We can see, or I will see from the old file server, if the department share and the Active Directory home folder is pointing to the new file server. Let's wait and see. We will wait for a moment. We will log in. And by the way, there is a very important thing to do in the mapping group policy. You need to tell him in the mapping group policy to delete the old network map drives and map the new network map drive, or create the new network map drives. Because if you do not do this, the old network map drive will appear but with a red cross on it. Okay, it is not accessible, but it will still appear for the user. So let me show you a little bit of a picture. If we open this one, let me show you all something here. We open the training, I think, maybe. Okay, this is the one. So what you will do, if you didn't tweak the mapping group policy, you will see the new network map drive on the new file server, and the old network map drive will appear like this. Okay, so we need to tell the network mapping group also to remove this. Okay, so we need to remove the old one. Okay, so what appear will be only the new network map drive. The old one will be removed completely. It will appear as disconnected, but I need to remove it completely from the list. So this should be done in the network mapped group policy. I will show you all this in a moment, but just to point it. Okay, let's go and see. So let's continue and open it. So now what we will see, just wait for a moment. Let me show you all a little bit of something here. So what will appear here is the new new Active Directory folder pointing to the new file server, and this is the new department share. It is pointing to the new file server. I will make sure of that. I will delete the old department shares folder from the old file server, okay, to make sure that this is the new one, or it is pointing to the new file server and the new folder. Okay, we will do this in a moment. I will not know this from the properties. Okay, this will not work. This will not work. It is not working, or it is not point. We will not know the server from here. Okay, so here what I'm doing, deleting the two or the old folders, okay, to make sure that I am accessing the new folders. Okay, before that I will show you all the network mapping policy. This is a very, very important thing to do, because if you do not do this, the old network map drive will appear as disconnected, and it will be viewed by the user. Okay, we need to remove it. It will not be accessible, I know, but you should remove it. Okay, it will be accessible, of course, by the way, if you didn't remove the old folders from the old file server. But we need to do this. Let me show you all what is the trick here with the network map drive group policy. So here we go to Skynet, and let's go to the network or mapping. Okay, so this is the mapping policy. We will edit it. So let's edit it and go further. Okay, so can go further again. We will go and access. It will take some time. Let's go further again. So here we go to the user section configuration. Let's see here what this is. What is this? Okay, here we are removing the old network map drives. Okay, and at the bottom we are creating the new network map drive. You can see this is all removing all of the old network map drive, and this is creating the new network map drives. So we need to make it on two parts, to remove the old network map drives and to create the new network map drives on the new server. So let me show you all one of these removing. This is removing the old one. Let's see here. If you open it, is the delete action to delete, and one is to create. Okay, let's wait and see here what we're saying here. To delete the old network map drive, okay, on the old file server, need to delete. Okay, and let's go to other things. So we are deleting the old network map drive, and then we need to make sure that it will not check apply once and do not reply, or do not reapply, because this will be, it will be applied once. Okay, so we need to make item level targeting. We will leave everything as it is, but make sure that this is not checked, because that means that it will be applied once. Okay, so anyway, this is one good thing to do. And then we need to go, and this is the new one. If you open the new one, as you can see here, one thing, if you go further here, again, let's wait for a couple of seconds here. Okay, again, so let's see this one. No, we need to go further again. So here we can see, if you go one tick, 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 okay, tick, again, let's go further, go further. So we can see reconnect here. That means if the connection between the client and the file server is disconnected, you need to reconnect. Okay, this is a problem because the icon of the old network map drive is still for it's still appearing for the user because of this option. Anyway, so we can see this is create and the other is delete. So we delete the old network map drive, and this is create the new network map drive. Okay, and we can see here also it is item level targeting and do not check apply once. Okay, so now we can see everything is working perfectly. The old file server, we can now remove the folders from the old file server safely. Okay, again, for the profile tab, we can see that the new file server is appearing. Now we can delete the old folders, just our migration process is complete. So now I am deleting the two old folders. We will delete them, Control Alt Delete, and safely now our migration process is done. One thing I think here, by using the server manager tool or server migration tool, he has already copied the folder, but I think the history on accessing these folders, maybe it is not copied. I don't know, because the RoboCopy can do this, but I don't know if the server migration tool have done this. Anyway, we can see that now the migration process is done. We will take a snapshot on all of the servers, because the upcoming video will migrate the WSOS. So this is before WSOS migration. We will take this snapshot on all of the servers. We will do that on the old file server, and by the way, this is the old WSOS, and we will do this on the 3 servers. We will do that also on the new file server and the new DHCP. Now we have 2 roles migrated, DHCP and file server. We need to migrate the 3rd role, which is WSOS. Okay, and then this is complete, or our migration process is complete. We will add an additional domain controller, and then this additional domain controller will have Windows Server 22 data center installed on it, and we will remove the old additional domain controller which has Windows Server 2012 R2 installed on it. So now we will have the snapshot. Okay, and now as we can see, we will close the servers, and this concludes our video. Hope this video was informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.